this is what my takeaway from the Tears right now is like it's like eye candy, your titles. You want to distract us with all these nice titles and was it a fluke? So you bring the Pats, who were in the Super Bowl, all the way down.
It's way too early, so we're not so focused.
Finally, the Hunters, so you have them up. Like, wait. The Chiefs, it's the Tears. They should not be this high. They simply should not be this high.
Discuss.
And this has nothing to do with me not just believing in this team, but
should not be above any playoff teams?
They don't deserve that right now. They do not deserve that. When you have a quarterback in question of whether or not he's going to even start the season, they do not deserve to be right there. I'm sorry, Nick. Like, you can say they're the hunted, they're finally the Hunters, excuse me, and that's fine, but they can hunt from well below because they're going to have to.
Got them beneath three AFC teams.
Yeah. Every other team that finished third or less in their own division is well below them. So just because they have Patrick, we don't know if they're going to have Patrick Mahomes once again. And when we've seen them without Patrick Mahomes, this is what they look like.
Without Patrick Mahomes, they're not a good team.
We know that, which is
agree.
why I'm shocked that you just have them starting already way far too high for the Tears. And again, don't be distracted, everyone, by the titles of the Tears. It's still the Tears. So if you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, he has them as the 6th best team in the National Football League right now.
Be low.
No, that is not low. It's not low enough.
Now that I think about that, you're right.
So
that was a strong take.
So here's the thing. That would have felt more compelling if I hadn't just watched the AFC side of the playoffs. Because I don't know who you watched this postseason in the AFC and were like, oh my God, watch out for them. Because I didn't see any of those teams. And you're right to at least question whether or not Patrick will be there for week 1. I'm here to tell you he's going to be dancing at Travis's wedding and starting for the Chiefs in week 1 in September, but we'll see. But I am very confident that if they get in, and I think even if Patrick missed the first month, they could get in, that they will immediately regain their spot as the scariest team in the AFC, since every team that will be in the playoffs will have something in common. Yeah, that team's knocked us out before in the playoffs. Maybe not the Patriots. We haven't played you guys. And so, we'll see. I feel like there was a level of deference given to the 2010 or 2009 New England Patriots, who hadn't won a Super Bowl in 5 years and were coming off missing the playoffs and their quarterback blowing out his knee, but that the Chiefs evidently have not earned. So be it. We'll see how it plays.
Okay. Oh my gosh. Listen, I disagree with Greg for many reasons. And I want to talk about it here, but then like Nick takes it to the next extreme, being like, oh, they're the most dangerous team because they beat all these other teams. The Jags don't care. The Bills don't care. The Ravens don't care. The Broncos don't care. Like, none of these teams care. There is no embedded fear around the Kansas City Chiefs in this moment of time. There just isn't. There wasn't even with the Patriots. So stop pretending like there was. They had a tremendous amount of respect for Bill Bitch and New England and Tom Brady and all of that. But the Falcons weren't like, ooh, we got to go up against the Patriots. The Eagles weren't like, oh, we got to go up against the Patriots. The Giants weren't like, oh, no, we got to go up against the Patriots. It's not what happens. It's not how it works. So stop trying to pretend like there's this. Stop trying to pretend. Extra fear that's being placed upon, these teams when having to go up against the Kansas City Chiefs. It does not exist. In the very beginning, when there was a sense of invincibility of like, oh my gosh, what are we watching right now? What are we witnessing? Sure, I can see that. I can see a major intimidation. There is no intimidation, especially because there is now coaching staffs all around the NFL that are through the roof. Liam Cohen, Sean Payton, Harbaugh, Mike McDonald, Sean McVay. Like, now these coaching staffs are like, we can hang. You're not going up against, coaching staffs that are clearly just miles and miles and miles away from being even remotely comparable. And so, like, it's just this, why I always struggle with Kansas City Chiefs clips with first things first, because we just get such extreme whiplash takes that it's just, I just, it's exhausting. But where I disagree with Greg, where he's saying they shouldn't be above any other, they shouldn't be above any playoff team, that's where I wholeheartedly disagree. I'm not going to play the game right now, whether, is Mahomes going to play or is he not? I'm looking at these tiers and Nick making the evaluation based on Patrick Mahomes being 100% healthy. I've already talked about it, and unfortunately, as the weeks go on, as the months go on, I'll still have to talk about it because it's going to be relevant. But I'm going to try not to do it every single take. But don't know what he's going to look like. Not that he's not going to recover, not that he's not going to be great, but just in terms of when he officially starts, when we actually see him be at his best and all that type of stuff, it's impossible to know. We can guess all we want, and it's just completely made up. I don't have a strong desire to do that. So, in order to just play this game, and for the sake of this take, I'm just going to be like, the Mahomes is fully healthy. He's the best version of himself. It's like the injury never happened. Let's go. Okay? And that's the lens that I'm looking at the Kansas City Chiefs right now. I'm not trying to predict, well, maybe not until October. I'm not doing that. Not for this take, at least right now. And so, yeah, they've earned that, right? I'm going to feel more confident if you tell me Patrick Mahomes is fully healthy. And the Chiefs are playing, and they now also have top draft picks in the first round, second round, third round, fourth round, and so forth. I'm going to have more confidence in the Kansas City Chiefs than the Green Bay Packers, the New England Patriots, the Baltimore Ravens, the 49ers, the Chargers, the Texans, all these teams. Now, I can understand if you don't want to put the Chiefs above them and you want to put them in the same tier. But again, I feel bad having to keep saying this is if Patrick Mahomes is completely healthy and there's no problems. I'm going and you say, who do you think is going to be better next season, the Chiefs or the Patriots? The Chiefs. Who do you think is going to be better, the 49ers or the Chiefs? The Chiefs. Who do you think is going to be better, the Chiefs or the Texans? The Chiefs. I'm going to go with the Chiefs. That doesn't mean that they're going to win all those games. It doesn't mean that if they played each other that the Texans wouldn't beat the Chiefs or, whatever other teams I use as an example. It's not to say that those other teams wouldn't beat the Chiefs or that the Chiefs wouldn't lose, because of course I believe that's on the table because I don't think the Chiefs are this absolute invincible team. But if we're trying to make these way too early predictions, that's where I go with the confidence factor. And that's what I said about the Rams all season long. I'm like, I don't know if the Rams are the best team in the NFL, but I have the most confidence in them. I have the most confidence in them because I feel as though that they've earned that. To me, it was very clear, and the Chiefs absolutely deserve that. If everything's all perfectly healthy and everything's all good, and the Chiefs have a similar season to what we saw last, this past year, yeah, I would find that very surprising. I was surprised by how not great Patrick Mahomes looked, and again, I defended some of the stats and I defended the losses. I even had them as a top team, even when they were winless, technically. And I was like, I imagine they're going to look a lot better as the season unfolds and as they get Rashid Rice back and all that type of stuff, and I believe that. But while watching them play, I was still surprised of wow, Mahomes is not making some nice, wow, Mahomes. That was objectively a terrible decision. That was a terrible interception. That was a terrible throw, regardless of the O-line, regardless of who's on the field and who you're it was bad performance. And I said this in my clip earlier, yesterday or whatever day, where I was just I'm excited to see, I'd be excited to see, even if Patrick Mahomes never got an injury, what he looks like this coming year, because there was clear, he clearly was not playing at his best. And now when you add in the injury, that just adds a whole another layer to it. But I would be surprised if we continued to see that, and I would be, and if that does continue, then I mean, I find that pretty jarring. But with that said, and I've said this a lot, and again, at this point now, we're just going to get in a lot of repeat takes because we're going to keep talking about these teams with not a lot of new information. And it's just like, I don't know if I'm expecting Lamar, Josh, Mahomes, etc. to just all really look like their vintage 2020, 21, 22 type selves. It's not to say that those years are long gone, but I just question if the situation needs to be, and by situation I mean like the team itself, the roster, like if the circumstances need to be more ideal to see those versions of those players. Now, I think my take for those quarterbacks right now, where they're at in their career, their health, they're all three of them have all been injured within the last year, essentially, right? Lamar was banged up, missed lots of games. Josh Allen literally just got surgery, and Al Mahomes just got surgery, right? And Joe Burrow, we can throw Joe Burrow in there, but obviously his team is the most inconsistent out of all of them. Also got surgery. Okay, that's kind of crazy when you think about it. 3 of the 4 all got surgery. And Lamar was bad enough that he missed games. I think at this point with those quarterbacks, I think if the roster is good enough, or even dare I even say great enough, where they have the receivers, they have the O-line, they have the run game, etc., they all can still unlock their true peak, their true eliteness, where we're like, we've never seen this quarter. We've never seen him play better, right? This is the best version we could expect from them. But I believe that all of those quarterbacks can show that. But I question if, at this point, if they don't have that great roster, if we'll be able to truly see that elevation where in years past, I feel as though that they were maybe more resilient, that I used to always say that Allen and Mahomes, etc., that like if your roster is bad and you don't have a good team, these quarterbacks are more likely to do the most with the less. Not that they're going to win a Super Bowl, not that they're going to dominate the league, but that I trust that they'll be able to do the most with the least. And I just wonder if that level of resiliency, it's not to say that they still don't have that ability, but I just question if it's just at what it once was. And I think we saw that with Mahomes this season, like he was not able to put the team on his back and, and get them across the finish line. He just wasn't. And I just, that's when I think that maybe at this point in their careers that they are just a little bit more beholden to their roster. But when the roster is there, they have the ability to play out of their minds. And so I think that's something to keep in consideration when trying to figure out who the Kansas City Chiefs are right now moving forward. Does Rashid Rice, Xavier Worthy, etc., like, do they have another level that they reach? Do they get settled? Is there a better understanding of what Kelsey is and isn't in this moment of time right now? Does Mahomes get settled in a different style of play right now? I mean, I think his evolution was always going to be interesting because people always compared him to Tom Brady, and Tom Brady was a very specific type of quarterback, and his ability to play until he was in his late 30s and 40s was always going to be it was always going to be easier for him to achieve that feat than a Mahomes, than an Allen, than a Lamar, etc. And what does that mean for the style of play? We've never really seen quarterbacks like Allen, Lamar, Mahomes really reach the levels of greatness that they all have. And then how does their game need to evolve and change if they want to continue to play into their, later 30s and whatnot? We've seen some of these other mobile quarterbacks like oh my God, I'm going to forget everyone's name right now. I can't Cam Newton and obviously the most famous one, Vic and whatnot. They're not Mahomes, they're not Lamar, they're not Allen, etc. So I'm just curious, and we might get an expedited version of that because of Mahomes' injury. And I don't know what that looks like. I believe that he can do it. Obviously, I believe if you said Mahomes, you can never scramble again. This is the type of quarterback you're going to be. Like, I still believe he'll be great, but it still changes, who he fundamentally is as a quarterback, and what does that mean? I don't entirely know. And so then do you now give these other younger quarterbacks, healthier quarterbacks, more durable quarterbacks like a Caleb Williams in this moment in time, or Drake May, or something, or a Bo Nix, that they just have they have the ability to be, maybe they can't maximize a team as well as a Mahomes can, but do they have the ability to be a lot more resilient to the ups and downs of just how good or not good a roster can be in any given moment? Injuries on the O-line, run support, no run support, etc. I find that pretty thought-provoking and something that I'm really going to be looking for this coming season. But I do think the Chiefs ultimately deserve, and are owed and have earned a tremendous amount of respect and belief in them. And, they've just done it for too long and at too high of a level. And I do agree, though, with what Nick is saying, where it's just like you're looking around the league right now, and none of the teams in the AFC blew you away. And so, therefore, if the Chiefs get into the playoffs, they can beat the Bills, they can beat the Broncos, they can beat the Jags, they can beat the Ravens, etc. But, like, you have to imagine that the Ravens are going to be better, that the Jags are going to be better, the Bills are going to be better, or just as competitive as they've always been with the Chiefs year after year after year. I do believe that the Chargers will be better. I do believe the Patriots will be better, right? Like, so I still think that's all on the table, but yes. Are there any, is there 3 or 4 or 5 teams that are right now in the NFL, AFC, or NFC where you're just like, ooh, these teams are just levels above everyone else? No, I don't think that. Even the Seahawks, who I think were the best team in the NFL, who obviously won the Super Bowl, I don't think they're levels and levels and levels. They could have lost against the Rams. The Rams could have lost to the Panthers or the Bears. The Bears could have lost to the Packers. The Broncos could have lost to the Bills. The Bills could have lost to the Jags. I mean, like, this is all so much up in the air right now. It's football, man. I think we're in for another. This season, everyone kept saying this is one of the craziest seasons we've ever seen. And going into last season, I said, I think this is going to be one of the most competitive years we've ever seen. And I kept saying it's because I thought the floor is going to be risen, which I'm not exactly sure if that's why it happened, but we definitely had one of the craziest years. I believe that we're right on track. I just think right now, the way how the NFL is, the way how all the quarterbacks are kind of spread all over the NFL, the way how the coaching quality is really increasing and spread all over the NFL, and we actually have a fascinating balance between awesome young offensive coaches and awesome young defensive coaches, and we have of coaches with the right quarterbacks and some development. We also had an interesting aspect with some ages of these quarterbacks, the young ones that are up and coming, Drake May, Bo Nix, Caleb, like they've now have some continuity with their coach, with their roster and whatnot. They're not at this big coaching disadvantage where they're really good, but now their coordinator got fired or something. Like there's a lot more continuity there. Like, all of this now being spread out and elevated, I just think is going to continue to give us a lot of wild chaos. I really, really do. So at this point, without knowing how free agency is going to shape up and the draft and injuries and all of that, I think we're in for a pretty wild ride again, man. I mean, the Seattle Seahawks just won the Super Bowl. No, I was a huge believer in the Seattle Seahawks going into the season and was like, they're going to be great. That I didn't say that they were going to win the Super Bowl, man. Like, because I don't know who's going to win the Super Bowl, but it was just like the Seattle Seahawks were the #1 seed and the Denver Broncos were the #1 seed. I mean, like, that's pretty wild. That's pretty wild. I mean, who's to say that it's not going to be the Chargers? Who's to say that it's not going to be the Bears? Who's to say that it's not going to be the Saints? I mean, seriously, who's to say that Tyler Shock and Shane and the Saints? I can't talk right now. And the Saints are in, top of the NFC this coming season. I mean, the NFL is really wild right now. It's really wild. And when you get the right coach with the right quarterback and your roster is just good enough, damage can be done. As long as you don't have heavy liabilities on defense or offense or whatever, like an offensive line, you're going to be able to do damage. And we have a fascinating distribution of coaches and quarterbacks right now. And so it's going to be interesting to see what the Chiefs have in store in that regard when navigating that. I think they had such a massive head start and such a massive advantage over coach and quarterback of the teams that they faced over the years. You're talking about beating the Jags with like Doug Peterson, it's like, okay, congrats. You're taking down the Ravens with like Harbaugh. It's like, okay, Sean McDermott, it's like, okay. Right? Like there's just such a disadvantage, for those teams and such a massive advantage for the Kansas City Chiefs that I just think that that gap has closed. But they still deserve way more of the benefit of the doubt over many of these other teams as well, because of what they've been able to accomplish and what either the other teams are trying to accomplish or just haven't accomplished quite yet. We'll see. Those are just my thoughts. I absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Kansas City Chiefs? Do you agree with Greg that they should not be above any playoff team? Or do you agree with Nick, where he actually thinks that they are too low? That's what he said. He said, if anything, they're too low. Let me know your thoughts. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get into some discussions. Let's get to some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here and absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all generally feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. It really does help with visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.